Hey there, Financial Futures fam! Today, we're diving into some shocking details regarding Social Security that directly impact over 71 million beneficiaries, including retirees, those with disabilities, SSDI recipients, survivors, spouses, and SSI beneficiaries. Buckle up because this report reveals some eye-opening numbers that you need to know. Before we jump in, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit that subscribe button below, it's free, and join me as we navigate through the latest updates, bills, proposals, and everything else affecting your finances and benefits. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on staying informed during these rapidly changing times. Alright, let's get straight into it. I've got the scoop on some jaw-dropping figures from a recent report. Brace yourself for an 81.6% increase and a mind-blowing 141% surge. Yes, you heard that right, those are the percentages we're dealing with here, and they're not what you might expect. So, what do these numbers actually mean? Well, over a 23-year period, from 2000 to 2023, Social Security benefits saw an 81.6% increase. Sounds impressive, right? Hold on to that thought because here comes the shocker. During that same time frame, expenses skyrocketed by a staggering 141%. Now, let's do a quick reality check. If the cost of living adjustment (COLA) is supposed to keep pace with real expenses, why the massive gap? It's simple math. Benefits rose by 81.6%, while expenses surged by 141%. That leaves us with a jaw-dropping discrepancy of 59.4%. Think about it, nearly a 60% difference between how much benefits increased and how much prices rose for goods and services. This isn't just a minor gap, it's a glaring disparity that directly impacts the livelihoods of millions of beneficiaries. Sure, we all knew the COLA wasn't perfect, but a 59.4% gap? That's beyond unacceptable. It's high time for some real solutions to bridge this alarming chasm and ensure that beneficiaries aren't left struggling to keep up with rising costs. And here's the kicker: the proposed switch from CPIW to CPIE wouldn't have made much of a difference. Sure, it might have closed the gap slightly, but not nearly enough to address the real issue at hand. Let's jump into our next topic. We've got some hot off-the-press news that's going to shake up the financial landscape. The CPI inflation report just dropped, and let me tell you, it's not playing around. Buckle up because we're about to dissect these numbers and see how they'll impact everything from interest rates to the overall economy. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit that subscribe button below and join me as we navigate through the latest updates, bills, proposals, and everything else affecting your financial future. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on staying informed during these rapidly changing times. Alright, let's get straight to the meat of it. Inflation is on the rise, folks. In January, headline inflation stood at 3.1%. But hold on to your hats because it's climbed even higher to 3.2% in February. Now, that might not sound like a huge jump, but when you're aiming for a 2% target, every decimal point matters. So, why is this a big deal? Well, let's break it down. The Federal Reserve's goal is to tame inflation and keep it around 2%. But with numbers like these, we're heading in the wrong direction. Core inflation isn't faring much better, coming in at 3.8%, which is still way off target. Now, let's talk interest rates. The Fed was expected to cut rates 3 times this year, but the burning question is when. Spoiler alert, it's not happening at the next meeting. In fact, There's a whopping 99% chance they'll hold off on cutting rates come March 20, according to the CME Fed Watch tool. But wait, it gets even more interesting. Looking ahead to May, the odds of a rate cut have dwindled to just 17%, down from 99% a couple of months ago. And trust me, those odds are only going to continue dropping. Now, let's dig into the CPI inflation report itself. Energy prices are down by 1.9% year over year, which might seem like good news. But don't celebrate just yet, prices are actually starting to creep back up after a temporary dip. Meanwhile, food prices are up 2.2% year over year, showing a slight improvement from the previous month. But let's not kid ourselves, prices are still on the rise, just at a slightly slower pace. When it comes to shelter inflation, the picture isn't pretty. Sure, it's down to 5.7% from 6.0%, but that's still way above target. And here's the kicker, this figure doesn't even reflect true market rates, making it a real head-scratcher. Lastly, services inflation is sitting at 5.2%, stubbornly refusing to budge. And here's where things get tricky. According to the Fed, this rapid wage growth is actually a cause for concern, as it could fuel further inflation down the line. So, what's the bottom line? With the economy booming and inflation on the rise, the Fed's hands are tied. They want to cut rates to keep things humming along, but with inflation metrics above target, it's a risky move. As we gear up for the upcoming elections, all eyes are on the Fed to see how they'll navigate this tricky terrain. Will they cut rates and risk further inflation, or hold steady and potentially jeopardize the economy? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, things are about to get interesting. Alright, that's a wrap for today's breakdown. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned for more updates.